So, a topic that has come up, especially on my Facebook page a lot lately, but just in general, is this argument of the high carb diets versus high fat diets. Um, One thing that seems to be universal is that everyone seems to agree that protein should be moderate. So, protein should be moderate no matter what the diet is. You should have an adequate level of protein. What is adequate? It depends on who you ask, but it's probably something like 0.8 grams per pound of body weight to 1 gram per pound of body weight. I've seen people recommend like 1.2 to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. At a certain point, I think a lot of people start overeating protein. It makes me laugh sometimes because they sound like bodybuilders, like protein, 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 protein. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna need some protein, especially if you're trying to gain muscle. You know, if you're training really hard, you're breaking your muscles down. Your muscles are made of protein, so eat some protein to help your body rebuild damaged protein. In any case, high carb versus high fat. The research, sticking to research here, the research leads me to believe that a high fat diet is much healthier in terms of longevity. Okay, let me put that out there for people. I want people to understand that I'm clearly defining the parameters. A high fat diet is better for longevity. Why? Because a high fat diet, low carb diet, okay, has a lot of things that are in common with something called caloric restriction with adequate nutrition. People refer to it as CRAN. Caloric restriction is shown to increase longevity. Okay, there's more autophagy and apoptosis. It seems to be really good for health. You don't develop cancers. Your body seems to stay younger longer. It activates, SIRT1. There's a whole bunch of benefits to caloric restriction. If you just simply restrict carbohydrates, though, it seems to give you very similar benefits. Ketogenic diets are shown in research to be good for your brain health. Okay, they're great for people recovering from traumatic brain injuries. They're great for people with epilepsy, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Lou Gehrig's, cancer, glioblastoma, which is a form of brain cancer. There's actually research. You can like go to PubMed and you can find research studies where they've used ketogenic diets to treat brain cancer, cancer in general. Okay, and this someone's gonna pick a fight with me. I know it. Someone's gonna tell me because I've already had this fight like 5 times now. Oh, well, there are cancers that thrive on ketones. No, there fucking aren't. Okay, if you know of one, send me the research. I will make a rebuttal video where I come out and say, yeah, you know what? Cancers are dependent on ketones. But the thing is, I've yet to see that in any of the research, and I have actually specifically looked for ketone dependent cancers. No, they're glucose dependent. Okay? I don't. No self respecting doctor would even entertain that idea because there's absolutely no research to support that claim. So please stop making it. In any case, the carb restriction seems to have a lot of the same benefits as caloric restriction. Therefore, I believe that a low carb, high fat diet is a better diet for longevity. As evidenced by the research, it seems to be beneficial for brain health as well as cancer prevention. It seems to help people avoid a lot of diseases. However, okay, humans are really not built for longevity. To be totally honest with ourselves here, you're kind of biohacking if you're trying to increase your longevity. Eating a high-fat, low-carb diet, you are biohacking. You're trying to sneak around your little genetic code to make yourself live a little bit longer. Because really, what are we here for? What is the purpose of life? Sex, procreation. Every organism on this entire planet has one goal and one goal only: pass on your genetic information. That's it. Preservation of species. So, Are humans built for longevity? Not really. Because if you figure just logically here, you probably are entering your reproductive ability around like the age of 15. I'm just choosing um, nice even fives actually, just so people don't just think I'm just like grabbing a random number. And so you figure if you're able to reproduce at 15, you impregnate someone or you get impregnated, and you have this child, and then your child, you're going to rear that offspring until they're at reproductive age, which is 15, so now you're like 30. Um, and let's say that you actually reproduce multiple times between that span of, 15 to 30. So you have your last child at the age of 30. And so now you have 15 more years of raising offspring till their reproductive years of reaching 15. So now you're 45, which is about the time where you start seeing women start going into menopause and stuff like that. You don't see a whole lot of women over the age of 45 having kids. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm just saying that it's not common. And so when we look at that, what you realize is that really after you have kids and you go into menopause and you're no longer able to reproduce, and I don't mean this in a literal sense like you have no value, but in a biological sense, your life is over. Like there's no reason for you to still be alive. You're not going to reproduce. Your offspring is already self-sufficient. They've already reached a level where they don't need you to care for them anymore. So from a biological standpoint, by the age of 45, your body really doesn't care whether or not it survives any longer because it's already done its job. It's already passed on its genetic information. You're out of your reproductive years. So, now, because we're intelligent, because we have feelings, because we have emotions, because we are present, of course we want to live as long as we can. We want to be grandparents. We want to be great grandparents. We want to see our kids grow up. We want to have a great life. That's where I come back around with the whole longevity thing. We're kind of biohacking to buy ourselves some more time. A high carb diet. A high carb diet can a high carb diet be healthy? Absolutely. A high carb diet can be healthy. But I think it's funny because if you start paying attention to things, if you go high fat, then you need to go low carb. And if you go high carb, then you need to go low fat. Or not even low fat, but just lower fat, okay? Just stay with me, because like, if you go really low fat, all kinds of bad shit happens. I actually played that game already, just for the sake of an experiment. I did an isocaloric diet, so same number of calories, but I shifted my fats all the way down. I was actually less than 20 grams of fat a day, and my testosterone level just like tanked. So once you get below 20, and I was actually okay, even as low as 30 grams. I just wanted to put that caveat out in there. As low as 30 grams of fat a day, my testosterone level did not drop from 70 grams of fat a day to 30 grams of fat a day. But when I went below 20, my testosterone level crashed. So, maybe someone who's much smarter than me can explain why going below 20 is a magic number. It could even just be me, my unique genetic makeup and physiology. But in any case, I found that once you go below 20, you run into some issues, which were very quickly mitigated by just bumping my fat intake back up to 40. And boom, my testosterone level came right back up. So it's not like it caused like permanent damage. I wasn't like, my balls didn't fall off or something. That didn't happen until much later. I put butter in my coffee, and my balls fell off. So in any case, the high-fat diet versus the high-carb diet, I think both of them have legitimacy as far as active individuals. If you are not an active individual, if you sit in front of a computer all day, if you don't exercise, if you aren't active, if you aren't moving around, you probably should just stick with the high-fat diet because you really don't need the carbohydrates. I always tell people earn your carbohydrates. For those of you who are lifting weights, for those of you who are running, exercising, playing sports, whatever, a higher carb diet probably actually will improve your athletic performance. It will, because you're going to replenish your glycogen levels, and your body really loves to use glucose for, glycolytic work. So, running sprints or something like that. So, I mean, I'm not anti-carb. I hope no one ever assumes that I'm anti-carb just because I talk about the health benefits of eating a ketogenic diet. Um, for athletic performance, I think that carbohydrates are just fine for athletic performance. I don't see a reason. I don't really feel like a high-fat diet is superior to a high-carb diet as in terms of athletic performance, especially depending on the athletic event. Maybe for endurance events, you could easily make the argument that a high-fat diet is better for endurance events. However, most sports like football, hockey, baseball, etc., are not really endurance events. I played hockey for 17 years. It's 1 minute of all-out intensity, and then you hop back on the bench and chill out for like 5 minutes. So, I mean, it really isn't a sport of endurance. It's a sport of a bunch of short sprints with a lot of rest. Um, so I hope that makes sense to people. People can understand now that, oh, Chad is saying high fat diets are good for longevity, but he's not telling people that they have to eat a high fat diet because it's somehow inherently superior to eating a high carb diet. I'm just letting people know that they have different goals. Um, for athletic performance, go ahead and do your high carb diet. But if your goal is to live as long as possible, to avoid Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancers, etc., high fat diet. It's You're comparing apples and oranges. It's two different tools for two different jobs. I mean, I don't use a hammer to screw in a light bulb. So just consider that whenever you're choosing your diets or you're making your argument. Please keep in mind, what are we actually talking about? Are we talking about a diet for longevity? Are we talking about a diet to lower your cholesterol? Are we talking a diet to treat some particular disease? Are we talking about athletic performance? Are we talking about body composition? I want to get as lean as possible, or I want to get as muscular as possible. Every single one of those objectives, it requires a slightly different diet. There is no one size fits all.